Hi there, it's Jonathan Tasini, author of The Essential Bernie Sanders and His Vision for America. So I've been getting a number of calls and emails about, asking me what happened at the Democratic Party platform in the last couple of days. So I thought I would just do this quick and dirty video, give people some impressions, maybe sum it up a little bit. The first thing I want to start with is that, party platforms really don't matter. And they don't matter if you don't have movements, frankly, because at the end of the day, the party platform is just a bunch of pieces of paper that no president is going to pay attention to unless there's a movement trying to enforce those principles. And that's, I think, the most important thing that I was thinking about throughout this whole process is that to the extent that this is like a most progressive party platform in recent history, which is what part of the rhetoric that's coming out of this meeting says, and I think Bernie has said that, it's really all because of you. It's all because of every single phone call that people made over the last year, the doors you knocked on, the rallies you went to, the money you donated, $27, an average of $27. It's really about the movement and all the things that we managed to get in the platform, and the things that we lost, all are calculations and all come out of this political movement. None of this would have happened if we did not exist. If Bernie Sanders had not been in the race, if we had not ignited this incredible pouring out from people's homes, this desire on the part of people to really fundamentally change the politics of the country. So pat yourselves on the back, first of all, and remember that whatever happened at the party platform, we still have a lot of work to do. So the main things that I would just say, and I'm not going to go through every single point, I'll just highlight a few things. Probably people have heard that now the party is committed to raising the minimum wage, the federal minimum wage, to $15 an hour, which is a really good thing. It's a little fuzzy because there were two words there that said over time. So we don't know whether that means now that the party is committed to doing that over the next 2 weeks or the next 20 years. And to be realistic and not take the most extreme examples, it really should be raised over the next several years. But this leaves a lot of wiggle room, in my opinion, for someone to say, a mythical president, to say, oh, well, we can do this over 10 or 15 or 20 years. But still, it's an improvement to say $15 an hour. And again, this would not have happened without you. There are some other things that are in the platform that are important. There is a commitment to abolish the death penalty. There's a significant commitment, and this is really coming out of what Bernie spoke about throughout the whole campaign. And I'm reading from some of the press statement that Bernie made. An amendment focused on criminal justice reform, which calls for an investigation by the Department of Justice to investigate all shootings involving police officers. And we know all what that's about. The communities of color can't drive their cars, can't walk in the streets without fear of being assaulted by police officers. And has been quite troubling to our communities. And we really have to address that. We have to address that not just in the party platform, but movements in the streets and the great peaceful protests that have happened, certainly in the last couple of days, but frankly over the last year, have been a testament to people's desire to organize and to stop that violence against communities of color. There was probably one of the highlights of the meeting was a commitment on climate change. And again, this commitment, which puts a price on carbon and methane to discourage the continued use of fossil fuels. It also commits lawmakers to consider the impact on climate in all federal decisions, and there's a commitment to invest heavily in wind and solar power rather than natural gas. In other words, rather than continue to frack and create this horrendous water trouble and affect the climate and the air because of all the chemicals and the release of carbon-related products into the air, we have a much stronger commitment that would not have happened without all the activism around the environment and climate change. So again, that's because of what you have done. The one thing that I would focus on that we were not successful on, but we could continue to fight at the convention in 2 weeks, is the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's pretty amazing that no one spoke up at that meeting against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. But all the Clinton delegates walked in lockstep and opposed our attempts to insert very, very simple language. In fact, one sentence that would have said in the trade section, "That is why we oppose the Trans-Pacific Partnership." Very simple. And let's be clear, this is a lot about pressure from the White House. The President of the United States has staked his legacy, and this is always mystifying to me, on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Mystifying, as you'll see in a minute, from an electoral political standpoint. Because the fact is that this piece of crap trade deal can only pass because of Republican support. As much as we want to criticize the Democratic Party, and there's a lot to criticize, a majority of the Democrats in the House, a large majority, and a majority of the Democrats in the Senate oppose the Trans-Pacific Partnership. A majority of Democratic voters oppose the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and a majority of the American people oppose the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The only reason this piece of dung still exists is because the president wants to get it through, and the only reason he will get it through is because he has huge support from the Republican Party. Now, this is also foolish from an electoral standpoint because, as you have probably read, the unhinged, dangerous person who is likely to be the Republican nominee has been going around talking about how NAFTA has been a disaster. And I hate to say this, and please don't spread this around, but he's right about that. I hate to even give him credit for one thing, but when he attacks NAFTA and says it's been a disaster, he is absolutely right. And he is going to take that message into places like Ohio and Pennsylvania and Indiana, even in the Rust Belt areas in Rochester, Buffalo, throughout communities that have been devastated by these terrible trade agreements, which are about corporate rights. We are all for trade, and this is an important thing to remember. This is about pushing deals that are about corporate rights. They're not about rights for people, they're about corporate rights. Now, the good news is that we're probably going to file, and when I say we, the Sanders movement, I believe Bernie Sanders is going to pursue this, what's known as a minority report. What that allows us to do is to take a report to the convention, bring it to the floor of the convention, and ask that that minority report be adopted and replace the language that's in the current draft platform. Okay, so if we get a majority of the delegates at the convention to support our position on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, again, that simple sentence that says, "That is why we oppose the Trans-Pacific Partnership," that language will replace the current weak language that is currently in the draft platform. And I have to say, maybe it's because I'm an optimist by nature, I believe that we have a good shot at that because remember, unlike the proportion of votes at the platform committee, which is almost 2-to-1 roughly, because Debbie Wasserman Schultz stacked the committee, and it was almost 2-to-1. It did not reflect Bernie's actual vote during the primaries and caucuses. So the Clinton delegates had an overwhelming majority at the platform committee. That won't be true at the convention, where we will have about 44 to 45% of the delegates. So if we stick together, we can appeal to lots of labor delegates, for example, who come from states like Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania, very important electoral states, and we can say to them, look, support us because this is not just about the election, about winning those states, it's about the future of your members and the future of the middle class. So I do feel optimistic about that, and I do feel that we potentially could win that. I was also disappointed that, again, in lockstep, the Hillary Clinton delegates voted against the resolution that we had put forward to support giving humanitarian aid to rebuild Gaza, which had been destroyed in the recent war. And I have to say it's almost emotional to think of how immoral that is, that we as the Democratic Party would not support humanitarian aid to reconstruct Gaza, which is still has been shattered and is in pieces from that war, where people don't have decent drinking water, they can't get enough food, there's not concrete to rebuild the buildings. That was a huge disappointment, and I think a stain on the Democratic Party. But again, I want to close. I wanted to make this short. Those were kind of the highlights. There were lots of other things we had to struggle over. It is more progressive than it would have been, and that, again, is because of you. And we need to keep that in mind, because this piece of paper won't mean anything, even the good things, if we don't continue organizing long past the election, whoever ends up in the White House. This movement has just started. It's one of the reasons I'm so positive and thrilled about what we've done so far. And I believe that this is just the start of our political revolution. And we can take these pieces, particularly the positive ones, and also the negative ones, go back to our communities and continue to organize. So that work is done. In 2 weeks, I'll see a lot of you in Philadelphia. Write me, text me, tweet me. Let's keep talking about this, and let's keep the political revolution building.